We got him. Utah's governor finally announcing those words our country was waiting for. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. The three-day manhunt for Charlie Kirk, suspected killer, comes to an end. The suspect identified as 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Officials saying Robinson's father recognized him as the person of interest and told his son to turn himself in. They say Robinson refused at first, but later changed his mind and was arrested with the help of the family's youth pastor, who is also a U.S. Marshals task force officer. It all happened in St. George, Utah, about 260 miles from where Kirk was killed. Authorities say Robinson was perched on a rooftop more than 100 yards from Kirk when he fired that single shot at the conservative activist as he was speaking on the campus of Utah Valley University. They say family members describe Robinson as becoming more political in recent years and had talked with his family about not liking Kirk's views. 31-year-old Kirk had become a major figure in the conservative youth movement and was even known as the Trump whisperer. The president and the governor of Utah reacting to Robinson's arrest this morning.
We have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. You know, getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant that was almost useless. We just saw there was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days.
I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history, yes. The question is what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history?
Our Jacqueline Lee has the latest for us now from Orem, Utah.
We got him.
A suspect in the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk is in custody. Investigators announcing the arrest this morning.
On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
Tyler Robinson is a 22-year-old from Utah. Law enforcement are reviewing these posts on Facebook in connection with the investigation. This update coming just hours after investigators released images and additional video of a suspect jumping from a rooftop of a building after the shooting and running into the woods. Law enforcement sources saying after recognizing his son as the person of interest, Robinson's father called a youth pastor who was also a U.S. Marshal task force officer, who then had marshals take him into custody. One family member telling investigators he had become more political in recent years.
The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had.
31-year-old Kirk was hosting an event on Utah Valley University's campus Wednesday when a single shot was fired, hitting and killing the activist. Police say they found a rifle in the woods nearby. Investigators speaking to a roommate who pointed them to messages from Robinson.
The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point.
President Trump saying this today on Fox News.
In custody, everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job.
Our Jacqueline Lee joins me now, along with Justice Department reporter Alex Mellon and former FBI agent Brad Garrett. So, Jacqueline, what more are we learning about Tyler Robinson?
Kira, two people told ABC News that he was enrolled in Dixie Technical College here in Utah, where he was working to become an electrician. And other friends have told us that he was very gifted intellectually, and they never would have imagined that he would potentially be involved in something like this. And one friend telling ABC News that he never spoke about politics really, that he was friendly, but he did keep to himself. But of course, we also heard from officials that he became more political in the last few years, speaking to family members. They say that he was full of hate. So, investigators are really going to be focused on figuring out what exactly shifted for him if he is found guilty of committing this shooting, and what was the real motivation behind it, Kira?
Well, Alex, the president is already calling for Tyler Robinson to get the death penalty. Could his comments actually complicate the prosecution?
Well, potentially, but remember, we did hear Governor Spencer Cox in a previous press conference intimate that he would also be seeking the death penalty for whenever they did catch their suspect in this case. I think more problematic potentially were President Trump's comments to Fox News saying that he wants a more speedy trial for Tyler Robinson. That gets into the more process that prosecutors have to deal with at trial, where if they actually take deliberate moves to try and get him to trial faster, then Tyler Robinson's defense could potentially cite President Trump's words, saying that they're being, directed in a political manner. So that could definitely serve to complicate it. But more importantly, I think just the divide that we're hearing between President Trump's words on this versus Governor Cox's words at that press conference. Governor Cox was very intentional in saying that this is a moment for the entirety of the country to turn the temperature down regarding our political, disagreements, whereas President Trump in recent interviews has really focused on making this about radical left opponents of his and, kind of adding it to what he sees as a need to crack down on his political opponents.
So, Brad, what do you make of the way Tyler Robinson was ultimately arrested here?
Well, it's interesting in that obviously he's not a kid that wanted to commit suicide. And at some point, I guess his father confronts him. And initial reporting was that he did admit it, didn't want to turn himself in, but obviously at some point changed his mind. What's going to be interesting, Kara, is what did he say to his father and what did he say to the U.S. Marshal in the hours that he spent with each of them? Did he admit that he did it? My guess is some version of that might be true. Clearly, the text messages to his roommate to go retrieve the rifle, describing where it was, and it was wrapped in a towel. I mean, it tells you about somebody who was very, from my perspective, intent in doing what he ultimately did, but didn't have any plan beyond that, based on jumping off the roof, running into the woods, tossing the rifle down, and kept moving, I guess going back to his car and driving, presumably, back to St. George, Utah. So, I don't know. I mean, we don't know motive yet, but it'll come.
All right, Jacqueline, Alex, Brad, thanks, guys.